Hi everybody, I'm now going to give an analysis on the Chimney Sweeper by William Blake. When my mother died I was very young, and my father sold me while yet my tongue could scarcely cry, weep, 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 weep. So your chimneys I sweep, and in soot I sleep. Here we have the story of the person narrating the poem, who's obviously a chimney sweeper too, somebody who tragically was sold into the slavery of sweeping the chimney. Was so young that he couldn't say anything, he couldn't talk properly. So instead of saying sweep, he said weep. It's also a play on words. In addition, this child is an orphan. His mother died when he was very young, which is also very true to life. This is what happened when children in Victorian times lost a parent. They would have to go out and work. That sweep, when you take off the S, sounds like weep. And then it says, so your chimneys I sweep, and in soot I sleep. So you have this very sad image of this small child, really very small, who is sweeping, but actually the emphasis is your chimneys. Who is the narrator speaking to? The reader of the poem. He wants to share that the reader of the poem also has some kind of responsibility in all of this. And in soot I sleep, meaning that it doesn't even have a proper bed. It's just sleeping in the dirt. Very sad beginning. Now we're introduced to the main character in the poem, little Tom Baker, emphasis on little. He cried when his head, that coiled like a lamb's back, was shaved, so I said, hush Tom, never mind it, for when your head's bare, you know that the soot cannot spoil your white hair. Okay, so again we've got the atmosphere of something very sad. A little child who's had his hair shaved in order to be able to work better in the chimneys, and his hair is likened to a lamb's hair. A lamb is a figure that is deliberately chosen by William Blake. It's a symbol of purity and innocence, and I think he really wants to drive home how these children are absolutely innocent from all sin and the way they're being treated. And the narrator comforts Tom and says, never mind it, when your head's bare, you know the soot cannot spoil your white hair. So meaning, okay, now your hair can't be ruined, which is a little bit ironic. The reader's saying, wow, this is really, it makes it even sadder. He's trying to comfort the child, but the sweet comfort that the child offers to us seems very poignant and very sad. The imagery is also very stark. You've got soot, which is pitch black, and you've got this hair, which is white as a lamb's back. And you have this idea of the soot spoiling the hair. You have this idea of blackening something, of making something unclean. It's a religious type of image of how these children have been tainted by the work. At least on the outside, they've been tainted by the work that they do. And I don't think it's the fact you're talking about the soot spoiling white hair, the use of these colours, it's not coincidental. And so he was quiet, and that very night, as Tom was asleeping, he had such a sight that thousands of sweepers, Dick, Joe, Ned and Jack, were all of them locked up in coffins of black. So now Tom is quiet, he's calmed by the comforting words of the narrator. And now we have a description of his dream. He's sleeping and he has a sight. It could be a dream, it could be a vision. Thousands of sweepers. Okay, it wasn't coincidental that you've got this description of thousands of sweepers, and you've got Dick, Joe, Ned and Jack, which are very common names for boys. This is an emphasis of how many of these children were involved in this awful chimney sweeping. Evidently, a coffin in this dream is a metaphor for something else. Now, being locked up in a coffin can have different meanings. It means you're going to your death. The chimney sweeping was a very dangerous business, and there were lots of terrible accidents and health consequences of breathing in the soot. Also, there was no way out of it. You were basically chained to your master. You had no options of your own. And a coffin of black, also in a physical sense, a chimney is the same size as a coffin, and it is black. So it's a very, very strong image, and basically locked up in the coffins of black. Okay, and then we have one little thing. It says Tom was asleeping. Sounds like a nursery rhyme. We use that asleeping to make some. And by came an angel who had a bright key, and he opened the coffins and set them all free. Then down a green plain, leaping, laughing, they run, and wash in a river and shine in the sun. Okay, so we now have an angel coming down with a bright key. The angel with the key could be a reference to the New Testament, where there is a vision there about a key opening up coffins. So he opens up the coffins, and all the chimney sweepers run out of the coffins, and they come down a green plain. Now, a green plain, this is a contrast to the image of dark, a black chimney which is constricted and constrained. This is wide open. It's in the country, and leaping, laughing, they run. So all of a sudden, these kids, instead of being chained up, they're free, and wash in a river and shine in the sun. There's this image of cleansing. The water here has a spiritual aspect to it. You have the act of purification through the water. It could be a reference to baptism. In Judaism, we have the mikveh, which is used for ritual purification. And then you have them shining in the sun. Now, the shining can be two different things. On the one hand, they could be shining because they're glistening from the water. On the other hand, they could be shining because they are close to God. They're shining like angels. They're literally glowing. They're naked and white, all their bags left behind. They rise upon clouds and sport in the wind. And the angel told Tom if he'd be a good boy, he'd have God for his father and never want joy. Okay, now these children have got rid of their clothing, the uniform that they wore as chimney sweepers. They're naked. Their nakedness can also refer to angels. If you think about paintings from the time of William Blake and before, from the Romantic era, there was an image of, they used the images of small boys, small children, who are pale-skinned as angels. All their bags left behind. This is a reference to the bags that they would use to carry their chimney sweeping equipment. Carrying a bag around is really a symbol of adult existence. Children aren't supposed to carry bags around. But in this vision of Tom's, their bags are no longer part of the picture. They rise upon clouds. Now, rising upon clouds can also make these children angelic. And sport in the wind. They play in the wind. Same as once again we go back to the paintings where you have the little cherubs in the sky. And the angel told Tom if he'd be a good boy. This is one of the most interesting parts of the poem. We don't really know what being a good boy means. It can mean several things, and it can be taken on several levels. It can mean that he is a good boy as in a good chimney sweeper. He behaves himself. He doesn't do anything wrong. It could be a good boy as in a good Christian, that he accepts everything and that he has faith and belief. And then it says he'd have God for his father. This child, to all intents and purposes, has been orphaned. His mother has died. His father has sold him. So from this point on, the angel's saying, you don't have to worry. God is looking after you. He's your father. And the expression, and never want joy. And never want joy could mean that he has so much joy he doesn't need any more. It could also be interpreted as he will be in a situation where he'll never want to be happy, which is a sadder and more sinister aspect to this. We can take the poem on many levels, and there's no one way of looking at it. And so Tom awoke, and we rose in the dark, and got with our bags and our brushes to work. Though the morning was cold, Tom was happy and warm. So if all do their duty, they need not feel harm. Okay, so Tom wakes up from his dream, and they get up in the dark. Why do they get up in the dark? Because they have to get up super early as chimney sweepers. And now we have the bags. The bags are here. They're next to them.
They have to get their bags and their brushes and get to work. Though the morning was cold, if you imagine that this is before sunrise, so this is England, so it's pretty freezing. Tom was happy and warm. So for some reason, Tom is impervious. He is resistant to all the things on the outside which could make him miserable. His dream somehow is keeping him happy, keeping him safe. Then there's a kind of moral to the story. So if all do their duty, they need not feel harm. Now this can mean so many different things. Who's the all? Who's the all that the poet's talking about? Is the poet talking about you, the reader, the one whose the chimney sweeper is sweeping? Well, let's start on the level of the children. If all do their duty, I mean, the angel has said to Tom, if you be a good boy, you'll be protected by God. Does that mean that he has to do his duty as a chimney sweeper and work and not question? Or does it mean us? Does it mean that if we do our duty as in our Christian duty of kindness and of making sure that no harm comes to other people and looking after creation, then the chimney sweepers will not be harmed? It can mean different things. I think it is an ironic poem. I think that the fact that it is written like a nursery rhyme, but on the other hand, it's talking about a very adult and a very difficult topic. I imagine that the message would be very clear to the reader, and the fact that the more childish she is makes it more ironic, which makes it even sadder. And that's it.